Just pay up, sweetheart. It ain't that complicated. The lowlife's grip tightened on her wrist. Emily dug her heels in, fear a cold knot in her stomach. Not again. Not tonight. He clearly didn't see Ryan watching from across the room, didn't understand the silent promise in Ryan's eyes. See? What this bully didn't know? Emily had a spirit tougher than any diamond, and a quiet strength that had already stared down cancer, debt, and a whole lot of bad luck. This creep thought he was intimidating a waitress. He had no idea how her quiet kindness was about to change everything. A reckoning was coming. Just wait. Ryan Maxwell inhaled deeply as he stepped out of his sleek black sedan. Even after all these years returning to Parkview, his old college town caused a tangle of emotions in his stomach. The same campus architecture he once dashed through with a backpack on his shoulder loomed ahead. But he wasn't here for nostalgia this time. He came as a successful entrepreneur who had learned to navigate corporate boardrooms as adeptly as he once navigated the hallways of Brookfield University. But somewhere between the laughter and excitement of his nostalgic drive, an unexplainable anxiety had been nagging at him. Perhaps it was the feeling that no matter how much you achieve, the past still has the power to anchor you to your humble origins. He was in town to meet with an investor, a venture capitalist named Jonathan Harrington, for dinner at the renowned Blue Orchid Bistro. Rumor had it that Jonathan might be willing to fund a new philanthropic project. Ryan had been pushing an educational app that would help underprivileged students. Ryan had scheduled dozens of investor meetings before, but this was different. It was a homecoming of sorts, returning to where his aspirations were born, where his love for computers blossomed, and where he built some of his most meaningful friendships. The restaurant was tucked away on a corner street lined with blooming cherry blossom trees. The bright neon sign reading Blue Orchid glowed softly. Its glass windows allowed passers-by to see plush seats, glittering chandeliers, and guests enjoying gourmet meals. Ryan stepped inside, greeted by the faint hum of smooth jazz. He was early, so he made his way to the hostess station. He was quickly led to a table near the back in a more discreet section that offered some privacy for high-profile meetings. As he sat down, he recalled an older memory years ago. He and a certain group of friends once crashed a fancy alumni dinner here by sneaking in through the side door, convinced that no one would notice a ragtag group of college kids. They had been discovered and scolded, of course. But it was also the night he realized how good it felt to take a leap of faith that was Ryan, then bold, ambitious, and sometimes naive. Ryan now was calmer, more polished, but that spark of risk-taking and altruism had never truly left him. He tapped his phone screen to pass the time just as he was about to review the pitch slides. One last time he looked up to signal a waiter and froze. The woman approaching was definitely a waitress, her hair pinned back neatly into a bun, wearing the restaurant's crisp white uniform, shirt, and navy apron. For a split second, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him because she looked exactly like Emily Rogers, his old friend from college. The Emily he remembered was always surrounded by books. She had big dreams, attending law school, working for a nonprofit, or maybe becoming a journalist. She was the type of person who stayed up all night discussing world issues, her ideals shining bright in her eyes now. As she drew closer, he could see the gentle lines of fatigue etched around those eyes. She had the same delicate features, the same warm smile, but there was a cautious look of someone who'd seen more challenges than she'd anticipated. This couldn't be Emily Rogers. He told himself his memory of her was tied to fearful banter and the promise of her becoming something spectacular. The waitress lifted her gaze and seemed to recognize him instantly. Her eyes widened and her cheeks flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and something else. Maybe recognition. She hesitated, standing a few feet away, as though deciding whether to approach or dash back to the kitchen. "Hi, Ryan," murmured uncertain Emily Rogers. She swallowed, offering a polite but shaky smile. "Hello, Ryan," for a moment, she faltered, pressing her lips together. She looked around, apparently checking if any manager was within earshot. Long time no see. Ryan's chest tightened. A swirl of questions formed in his mind. Why is she here? Did something happen to her career? Plans? Is she in trouble? He summoned a friendly smile, trying not to make her uncomfortable. "It's good to see you. It's been, 8 years since we graduated." Emily nodded something like that. She said, her voice soft. Can I get you something to drink while you wait, a sparkling water or a cocktail? Sure, Ryan replied. Sparkling water would be great, though he wanted to burst into 1,000 questions. He refrained. He watched her walk away. The practiced stride of a professional waitress. A million images flooded his mind. Emily debating passionately in class. Emily volunteering at the local homeless shelter. He remembered a younger version of her who always wore a wide grin, exuding confidence. Even during finals week, 5 minutes later, Emily returned with the water. She carefully placed it on the table, but said nothing more. Her posture awkward, as if she were torn between wanting to explain everything and wanting to vanish behind the doors leading to the kitchen. Emily, what, Ryan stammered. Carefully, how have you been? He couldn't hide the curiosity and concern in his tone. She glanced down at the table, fiddling with the edge of her apron. I'm doing okay, she replied, eyes flicking up to meet his. Life took a few turns. I listen. I don't really have time to chat right now. My manager can be particular about our socializing, but maybe if you're free later, I get off at 9. Ryan nodded, an odd mixture of relief and worry swirling inside him. Yes, of course I'd like that. We can catch up. She offered a subdued smile and rushed back to the kitchen to handle another order. Ryan watched her leave, an ache forming in his chest. He couldn't help but feel that something significant had happened to derail her once radiant future. More importantly, the vulnerability and subdued air about her tugged at the core of his compassion. He reminded himself that for all the financial success he'd achieved, life wasn't always so kind to others. Just then, Jonathan Harrington arrived, towering, silver-haired, and brimming with the confidence of a seasoned investor. Ryan forced his attention back to the present. He greeted Jonathan warmly, intending to focus on the reason he was here, the new philanthropic app. But he couldn't fully shake off the memory of Emily's eyes, how they once sparkled with ambition throughout dinner. Ryan tried to present the project's details with enthusiasm, but he frequently found his gaze drifting across the restaurant in hopes of spotting Emily. She remained busy serving plates with the mechanical grace of someone who'd done the job for a long time. Finally, the plates were cleared. Dessert was politely declined, and Jonathan left, promising to call with his decision. Soon Ryan paid the bill, left a generous TI, and approached the front to linger near the hostess stand. The clock read 8:55. He thought about pulling out his phone to pass the time, but the swirling energy in his mind wouldn't let him concentrate. He was anxious to speak with Emily, worried that she might change her mind or slip out without talking to him further. At 9:05, she emerged from the back, minus her apron, carrying a worn-out leather backpack, up close. He realized that although she still wore the same warm expression, the brightness in her eyes had dimmed. A shadow of exhaustion lingered there, the kind usually formed by too many responsibilities carried alone. Hey, she said softly. Hey, Ryan echoed. Would you like to grab a coffee somewhere, or maybe a bite to eat? He paused, then smiled sheepishly. Well, I guess you might be tired of restaurant food by now. She exhaled a short laugh. Coffee sounds nice. There's a small cafe a few blocks from here. It's open until midnight, so we can talk there. They walked together, a strange tension in the air. There was the familiarity of old friends, but also the invisible walls that life's experiences sometimes build between people who once knew each other well on their way. They passed the old Parkview Library and the statue of Brookfield University's founder. Ryan's chest filled with nostalgia. In college, he and Emily used to sit beneath that statue, with laptops brainstorming ways to create social change. Now the gap between those days and the present moment felt enormous. They settled into a corner booth at the cafe. Soft music played from a radio, accompanied by the faint hiss of the espresso machine. Ryan ordered a black coffee. Emily requested tea with honey. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, Emmy memory swirling, uncertain how to begin. Finally, Ryan asked, So Emily, what have you been up to since graduation? The last I heard, you were set on going to law school or working for an international NGO. I can't remember what you were always so passionate about, helping people. She looked down at her cup, fiddling with the teabag string. She murmured, and I did get into a law program, actually. I ended Templeton Law for a semester, but my dad got sick, cancer, stage 3, and my family wasn't prepared. The medical bills piled up. I dropped out to take care of him. I tried going back the next year, but by then I was buried under debt between part-time jobs, then a failed attempt at returning to school. Well, here I am. Ryan's heart sank. The mention of medical bills and debts was a story he'd heard too often, but never from someone so close to him. I'm so sorry, he said, voice thick with sympathy. Is your dad? She managed a small smile. He's in remission now, thankfully. But the cost of his treatments coupled with lost wages, I couldn't keep up. I had scholarships for school, but those didn't cover living costs or caretaker expenses. Eventually, we lost our house, and I moved into a small apartment. Dad lives with me sometimes. Depending on how well he's doing, he's better now, but the debts remain. Ryan nodded, absorbing her words. Silence stretched between them as they sipped their hot drinks. Memories of the unstoppable Emily, who once confronted bullies and gave stirring speeches at rallies, clashed with this new reality. You've been strong through all that, he finally said. She shrugged. I do what I have to do, not exactly what I dreamed of, but it's life. He wanted to ask more, but held back. Instead, he broke the tension with a gentle, I've missed you. You know, I used to wonder if our college group would ever have a reunion. There were times I tried searching for you on social media, but you weren't active. A faint smile curved her lips. I dropped all that, didn't want to see other people living my dream while I was struggling to stay afloat. It made me resentful, and I hate feeling that way. Ryan reached across the table, lightly covering her hand with his. If it helps, I'd like to be here for you now in any way I can. I'm not trying to overstep, but I have resources now. I could help. Her gaze snapped to his, a flicker of pride flaring in her eyes. Ryan, I appreciate the offer really, but I don't want your charity. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I've worked hard to maintain my independence, even if it's not glamorous. He nodded, retracting his hand. I understand, he said gently, but it doesn't have to be charity. Think of it as an old friend who wants to see you thrive again. Their conversation continued in fits and starts, sometimes light-hearted, reminiscing about funny college anecdotes, and other times heavy, overshadowed by the stark turn in Emily's life. By the time they parted ways just outside the cafe, she gave him a small hug. He wondered if she did so out of politeness or out of genuine affection. Take care, Ryan. She said it was nice catching up, really. Likewise, he responded, and if you ever need anything, I know, she said, offering one last smile before disappearing into the night. Ryan stood there watching her back until she turned a corner. Something tugged at his core, a mixture of longing, concern, and a blossoming idea. He could sense that Emily's pride wouldn't allow her to accept a simple handout, but maybe there were other ways he could help quietly without making her feel beholden. Back at his hotel suite, Ryan found it difficult to sleep. His mind buzzed with scenarios about how to help Emily, anonymously paying her debts, connecting her with job opportunities, or even helping her dad with better medical care. Yet he suspected she would recognize his hand in any of these gestures, and if she did, how would she react? She was proud, and understandably so. He remembered a conversation they once had in college. Emily spoke passionately about how important it was for people to stand on their own feet, how charity without empowerment sometimes robbed people of their dignity. People need a hand up, not a handout, she'd said now. Ironically, she was in dire need of that very hand up. Also found himself recalling the flutter in his chest. Each time she spoke back, then he'd had the faintest crush on her, something he never admitted aloud for fear of jeopardizing their precious friendship. She was the star, the unstoppable dreamer, and he was the quiet coder. It had never seemed like a possibility, but now seeing her again, vulnerable, but still carrying that inner warmth, sparked a different brand of protectiveness in him. He wanted to see her find her path again, and a small part of him hoped they might find it together. Days turned into a week. Ryan had extended his stay in Parkview, in part because Jonathan Harrington was still reviewing the philanthropic project, but if he were honest with himself, he was also lingering to be near Emily. He'd started appearing at the Blue Orchid Bistro, more often, sometimes alone. Sometimes with business colleagues. Emily was polite, though he could sense her discomfort at the repeated encounters. She didn't want to be singled out or pied in front of her coworkers. Eventually, Ryan decided to approach the problem from a different angle. If Emily wanted a chance to stand on her own, maybe he could help her behind the scenes when he discovered that the Blue Orchid was on the brink of financial troubles. Courtesy of a local news article, an idea took shape in his mind. The Blue Orchid was a staple of the community, but apparently a combination of rising rent costs and local competition had cut into its profits. Its owner, an elderly gentleman named Mr. Felton, had been seeking investors. Ryan arranged a private meeting with Mr. Felton in Mr. Felton's modest office, lined with old black and white photos of the restaurant. In its glory days, they discussed potential terms. Mr. Felton was cautious suspicious that Ryan might want to transform the quaint bistro into some trendy lounge or chain restaurant. Ryan assured him that his interest was purely philanthropic, a desire to preserve a piece of Parkview's charm and possibly expand the menu or marketing to draw a new crowd. The subtle part of Ryan's plan was to ensure that Emily would have better pay, better hours, and eventually a stepping stone to move on to bigger things if she desired. "Why are you so interested in our little place?" Mr. Felton asked, peering at Ryan from behind thick glass. "Is I've had bigger fish visit me, only to want to tear down walls and compromise everything that made this restaurant special." Ryan shrugged. "I came here as a broke college student. Once I have fond memories, now that I'm in a position to help, I want to see it thrive. I'll keep my share of the ownership quiet, and you can continue running it the way you always have, though." He had to put forward a hefty sum. Ryan decided it was worth it. He worked out a fair deal, offering a large investment to cover debts and an expansion plan in return. He'd hold a silent partnership in the restaurant. He requested that all employees receive better benefits and wages, especially the waitstaff whose tips could be unreliable. Consider it done. Mr. Felton agreed, gratitude shining in his eyes. "I won't forget this, Ryan. You're helping me save not just a business, but a piece of the community." They shook hands. An unspoken alliance formed in the following weeks. Changes began to roll out behind the scenes. Emily and the other wait staff noticed small but significant improvements: slightly higher pay, a new health insurance option, and fresh equipment in the kitchen. Rumors swirled about a mystery investor stepping in to revitalize the restaurant. Emily, while relieved, also grew curious. She confided in Rand one evening after her shift when they happened to bump into each other outside. "Did you hear the rumors?" she asked, hugging her arms to keep warm in the autumn chill. "Someone's pumped money into the Blue Orchid. We got a raise out of nowhere, my manager wouldn't say who." Ryan feigned surprise. "Yeah, I heard something about that." "That's great news." He used the old nickname, and she smiled in response. "I can't believe my luck," she breathed. I mean, it's not life-changing, but it'll help me pay off some bills faster. Maybe I can cut down on my second job." Ryan's heart clenched. She had a second job too. The desire to reveal himself was overwhelming, but he knew that if he told her, her pride might turn into anger or indignation. She might even quit this. Had to remain a secret, at least for now. "That's fantastic," he replied. "You deserve a break." She looked at him, something flickering in her eyes. "Ryan, I feel like you're an angel who dropped back into my life at a time when I really needed support. We were always good friends in college, but I never expected you to be so successful. I read some articles about Maxwell Innovations. You're quite the hotshot these days," he chuckled self-consciously, I guess. But success is relative. Sometimes I'm just that kid, fiddling with code, feeling lost in a sea of bigger fish." Emily shook her head. "Don't undersell yourself. You had drive then, and you have it now, though. I have to admit, I'm a little envious. I wanted that for myself. I wanted to change the world." "You still can," Ryan said, lightly touching her arm. "It's never too late." For a moment, she looked away, and Ryan thought he saw tears glistening in her eyes. Then she quickly blinked them back. Maybe, she whispered. Maybe they parted ways. But the memory of that conversation hung in Ryan's mind. She still had that flame inside her, the yearning to do something meaningful. If only she had a stable platform. A few weeks later, on an evening reminiscent of their college days, Ryan found himself watching Emily from a booth at the Blue Orchid. His presence had become common enough that the staff just assumed he was another loyal customer. He'd come in for coffee or to finalize some deal. But deep down, it was all an excuse to see Emily. That night she was clearing tables with a preoccupied expression before he could waver over. A tall man in a leather jacket entered the bistro. Scanning the room, Ryan noticed Emily stiffen when she spotted him. The man approached her, grabbing her wrist in a manner too possessive for Ryan's liking. She tried to shake him off, but he tightened his grip, whispering something heatedly in her ear. Ryan rose from his seat, alarmed, before he could intervene. The manager appeared, quietly telling the man to leave, or he would call security. The man let go of Emily, shot her a venomous glare, and walked out. Shaken, Emily attempted to resume her tasks, but her composure was clearly rattled. Ryan paid his bill quickly and followed her as she stepped away from the main floor, heading to the staff lounge. He tapped gently on the lounge door and found her sitting on a small bench, her face buried in her hands. "Emily," he asked softly, stepping into the cramped space. "Are you okay? Who was that?" She looked up, eyes glistening with tears. "Ryan, it's nothing you need to worry about. Just a friend. He didn't look friendly." "Are you sure you're okay?" She sighed heavily, hugging her arms. "That was my ex. Fiancé, say Luke. We were engaged about 2 years ago. Things didn't work out. He wasn't a good person, but he refuses to let me go. He shows up, sometimes wants money, or tries to guilt trip me into getting back together. I've threatened the police, but it's complicated. He knows some personal things about me, and I'm afraid of what he might do. If I push too hard," Ryan crouched in front of her, placing a comforting hand on her knee. "Emily, that sounds dangerous. You shouldn't have to deal with that alone. Have you told anyone else about this?" She shook her head. "I can't. My dad's health is improving, but he's fragile. I don't want to stress him out with more problems. And I don't have the money to hire a lawyer or deal with a messy restraining order." A protective surge Sia said through Ryan. "Let me help," he said firmly. "I can pay for the best lawyers." She cut him off, tears welling up again. "Ryan, don't you get it? I can't keep relying on other people to fix my life. I appreciate you. I do. But I'm trying so hard not to be a burden if I accept your help. Your money, it'll feel like I'm losing my dignity." He pressed his lips together, struggling to find the right words. "Emily, there's no shame in needing help. Everyone does. Sometimes you're not a burden. You have no idea how proud I am of you for what you've endured. But this is serious. He could hurt you." She exhaled shakily, tears now slipping down her cheeks. "I know, and I'm scared, but I'll handle it. I just need more time to pay off my debts, save a bit, and eventually move somewhere else. Get a better job. That's why the little raise at the Blue Orchid has been such a godsend. At least now I can see a tiny light at the end of the tunnel." Ryan's heart twisted. He wished he could take on all her burdens right then and there, shield her from the ugliness of her ex-fiancé, the weight of her debt, the regrets that haunted her. But he also knew pushing too hard could backfire. "All right," he finally said, voice thick with emotion. "But if Luke comes around again, or if you feel unsafe, promise me you'll call me, or the police. You have to, Emily." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I promise," she whispered. "Thank you, Ryan, for being here." He pulled her into a gentle hug, feeling her body tremble against him. In that moment, Ryan realized that part of him wasn't just wanting to help an old friend. He was falling for her, and that realization both thrilled and terrified him. A few days later, Ryan received a frantic text from Emily. Her father had a relapse and was rushed to the hospital. Ryan dropped everything and drove to St. Helena's Memorial. In a matter of minutes, when he arrived, he found Emily pacing the hallway outside her father's room, tears staining her cheeks. "How is he?" Ryan asked gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. She let out a shaky breath. "They said it's a complication from the chemotherapy. He had months ago, something about an infection he'll pull through, but it's going to mean more treatments, more bills." "I'm just so tired." Ryan guided her to a seat, holding her hand. She didn't argue or push him away this time. Exhaustion had worn down her barriers. I can help. Let me, please. I'll get him the best care." She closed her eyes, pressing trembling fingers against them. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I don't want to lose him, and I don't want to drown in more debt. But I also don't want to rely on you, as if I expect a miracle sometimes." "Miracles come from the people who care about us," Ryan said softly. "If you were in my position, you'd do the same for me, wouldn't you?" She sniffled. "I would." "Yes, then let me." He pressed. We'll figure out a dignified way to handle it. Loan gift, payment plan, whatever you want. I just don't want you to lose him because we didn't act quickly enough. Overwhelmed, Emily nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks again. She allowed Ryan to call a specialist for a second opinion within hours. Arrangements were made. Emily's father was transferred to a better facility in the same hospital, and advanced treatments were scheduled. She looked at Ryan in disbelief as it all happened so quickly, how she started shaking her head. I'll pay you back, Ryan, every cent. Ryan gave her a gentle look. Don't worry about that right now. Just focus on your father. She threw her arms around him, hugging him fiercely. You're an incredible person, she whispered. He held her heart pounding, wanting desperately to confess everything, his silent investment in the blue orchid, his feelings for her, and how he'd do anything to see her happy again. But he stayed quiet. It wasn't the right moment. Over the next few weeks, Emily's father stabilized, the treatments worked, and the infection subsided. Though Emily fretted about the mounting costs, Ryan assured her they would navigate it together, be it through an affordable repayment plan or an arrangement she was comfortable with. During those hospital days, Ryan and Emily grew closer. He brought her coffee, stayed with her during the long nights in the waiting room, and even slept in a chair next to her when she wouldn't go home. Their conversations moved beyond the tragedies of the present, often meandering into memories of their college days or hopes for the future. Emily admitted she still longed to finish law school or do something meaningful that helped people. Ryan spoke of his philanthropic passions, fueled by a desire to use his wealth for good. They laughed, they cried, and every day they seemed to inch closer to a deeper bond. In the midst of this fragile peace, Luke returned. One afternoon, he appeared at Emily's apartment while Ryan was helping her gather clothes for her father. Luke sneered at the sight of Ryan, quickly gauging that something had shifted. Well, Luke drawed arms crossed Emily's. Got a new sugar daddy. I see. Ryan bristled but held his composure, show some respect. He warned it, stepping between Luke and Emily. Luke let out a harsh laugh. You think I don't see what's going on, sweetheart? This big shot is paying your bills. Now isn't he living it up while you play the damsel in distress? Emily's face flamed with anger and shame. Get out, Luke, she said, her voice trembling, or I'll call the police. I'm done. His eyes flicked to Ryan, brimming with contempt. You may fool her with your fancy suits and sweet promises, but I know people like you. Eventually you'll dump her for a younger model. You'll break her heart and she'll be left with nothing. Emily raised her phone, threatening to dial. Luke glared, but slowly retreated to the door. I'll be in touch, Emily, he hissed. Don't think you can just brush me off. He slammed the door behind him, trembling. Emily leaned against the wall. Ryan immediately placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, Hune's bluffing. He said, though anxiety gnawed at him, we'll make sure he stays away. She nodded, tears welling up again. I won't let him ruin what little peace I have left. Ryan hesitated, then took a deep breath. The time for half measures was over, Emily. I need to tell you something. He started, his stomach twisting. There's something I've been keeping from you, not to deceive you, but to help you without bruising your pride. She tensed. What do you mean? He sighed. I'm the one who invested in the blue orchid. I'm the reason for your raise, the new health plan, the improvements. I wanted to help you, and I didn't want you to feel obligated or resentful. Emily's eyes widened and her face flushed with a mix of shock and hurt. She pushed his hand away. You're the mystery investor. Ryan swallowed hard. Yes, I'm so sorry I didn't tell you sooner. Her expression twisted in betrayal. So all this time, every little improvement at work, I was basically benefiting from your charity. You promised me you wouldn't do that behind my back. Ryan, it wasn't just for you. He insisted the restaurant was going under. I wanted to preserve it for the community, but yes, your well-being was a huge motivator. She pressed her lips together, tears brimming in her eyes. You think I can't handle my own life, that I need you to swoop in and fix everything? It's not like that, Ryan pleaded. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. You can still leave the waitressing job if you want. I won't stop you. But Emily shook her head, stepping away. You don't get it, Ryan. I appreciate your concern, but I can't shake this feeling that I'm some sort of project for you. The father in the hospital, the ex-fiancé drama, the waitress job, it's like You can't resist stepping in to save me." She paused, tears streaking her cheeks. "I thought we were, I don't know, reconnecting as equals, but now I realize I'm just the damsel and you're the knight on a white horse. That's not fair," Ryan said, voice trembling with emotion. "I never saw you as less than me. I admire you. I always have." She wiped her tears, her posture rigid. "I need time, Ryan. Please just let me figure this out on my own. I can't think straight right now." The finality in her voice told him not to push, so he gathered his jacket, gave her a lingering look of regret and sorrow, and left. For days. Ryan heard nothing from Emily. He tried texting, calling, but she rarely responded. When she did, it was short, polite, and hollow. Her father was stable again and recuperating slowly. She was back to waitressing. As far as he knew, he wanted so badly to fix the rift, but every attempt risked driving her away further. Meanwhile, Jonathan Harrington approved the philanthropic project for Ryan's educational app. In a normal situation, this would have been cause for celebration, but Ryan barely felt the triumph. His heart was too heavy with concern for Emily. One evening, while mindlessly flipping through TV channels, Ryan came across a news story about a heroic waitress who had disarmed a robber at a different restaurant. For some reason, it reminded him of Emily's bravery and fiery spirit in college. He felt a pang in his chest. She might be physically safe now, but emotionally she was battered by the weight of everything that had happened, determined to give her space yet unable to stay away entirely. Ryan decided to shift gears. He arranged a philanthropic gala, something he'd planned for months to raise funds for local scholarships. He made sure invitations were extended to various local businesses, including the Blue Orchid. He hoped that if Emily came, they might have a chance to talk in a more neutral setting. The night of the gala arrived. The venue, a grand ballroom at the Park View. Hilton sparkled with chandeliers, floral arrangements, and crisp white linens. Guests in elegant attire mingled, sipping champagne and discussing philanthropic endeavors. Ryan, dressed in a tailored navy suit, greeted donors, old college friends, and local community leaders. His heart jolted when he spotted Emily near the entrance, wearing a simple but beautiful emerald green dress that accentuated her warm complexion. She looked nervous. Glancing around at the lavish surroundings next to her was Mr. Felton, the owner of the Blue Orchid, who gave her a reassuring pat on the arm. She'd come as part of his contingent. Presumably, Ryan mustered the courage to approach them. "Emily, Mr. Felton," he said, bowing his head politely. "I'm glad you both could make it." Mr. Felton smiled kindly. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." "This is quite the event, Ryan. Thank you for inviting us." Emily met Ryan's eyes hesitantly. "Thanks for the invitation," she said, her tone guarded. Ryan nodded, offering a small smile. "I'm just happy you're here, Mr. Felton. If you don't mind, may I borrow Emily for a moment? I'd like to show her something." Mr. Felton, probably sensing the tension, nodded. "Of course, I'll go find my seat." He wandered off, leaving Ryan and Emily standing amidst the glamorous buzz of the Gaia. Ryan gestured towards a side hallway. "Let's step over here, away from the crowd." She followed reluctantly once they were alone in a quieter corner, near a large window overlooking the city lights. Ryan turned to face her. "Emily, I just want to say I'm sorry for how things happened. I never wanted you to feel patronized or indebted to me." She sighed, folding her arms. "I know rationally I do. It's been overwhelming. You stepped in and helped my dad, helped me at work, and I started feeling like my life was no longer my own. Like I was some charity case." He swallowed. "I understand. And if you tell me to back off, I will, but I'd be lying if I said I don't care about you, that I don't want to see you free from the burdens holding you down." He paused, heart thudding. I've never really said this, but Emily, I've always felt something for you. Even back in college, I was too shy to tell you. Then and now, seeing you again, all those feelings came rushing back tenfold." She blinked clearly, her back. "Ryan, I don't want to pressure you," he said softly, "but I need you to know how I feel. You're not just an old friend or someone. I pity you're someone. I think I'm falling in love with you." Emily's eyes welled up, her defenses cracking. "Ryan, I don't know what to say. My life is such a mess." He took a careful step closer. "I don't mind the mess. I just want to be part of your life on equal footing." She closed her eyes, tears slipping down. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared to rely on you too much to lose myself, but a big part of me wants to be with you too. You've always been kind, and now you're unbelievably generous. I just worry our dynamic is skewed. It doesn't have to be, Ryan murmured, daring to lift a hand and gently touch her cheek. We can define it together before she could respond. A loud commotion erupted from the main ballroom shouts, and the shrill ring of broken glass filled the air. Emily and Ryan rushed back in to find Luke apparently drunk, staggering amidst the elegantly dressed crowd, yelling Emily's name, Mr. Felton, and a few other guests tried to calm him down, but he pushed them aside, shouting slurred accusations. Emily, he roared, eyes wild. You think you can run away from me, huh? Now you're prancing around with this millionaire. He caught sight of Ryan and sneered. There he is, the hero, right, throwing money at her to make her your trophy. The crowd parted alarmed, security rushed in, but not before Luke lunged toward Emily. Ryan leaped forward, intercepting him. They grappled for a moment, toppling a table and sending plates crashing. Guests gasped, scrambling away. Luke swung wildly, landing a glancing blow on Ryan's jaw. Pain flared, but Ryan held Luke's arms, pinning them. Security guards seized Luke and wrestled him away while he continued spewing threats and curses. Emily stood frozen, horror etched on her face. Paramedics were called, although Ryan insisted he wasn't seriously hurt. Luke was handed over to the police, who arrived minutes later. The lavish gala had turned chaotic, and hushed whispers spread about Emily's relationship with the man, feeling humiliated and shaken. Emily fled to a side corridor. Ryan, ignoring his throbbing jaw, followed her. She was leaning against the wall, trembling, tears streaming. He approached cautiously Emily. She looked up, her expression ravaged by guilt and sorrow. I'm so sorry, Ryan. He ruined your event, injured you, made a scene. Ryan gently reached for her hand. It's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. She pressed her palm against his bruise. But it's my past, my baggage. You shouldn't have to deal with this. He gently took her hand from his face, holding it between his. I choose to, if you have me. She let out a shuddering sob and threw her arms around him, burying her face in his shoulder. He held her tightly, closing in his eyes as relief and warmth flooded his chest. In that embrace, a silent understanding passed between them, one that said they'd stand together despite the chaos in the wake of the gala fiasco. Emily filed for a restraining order against Luke. This time, with Ryan's help, she also secured a pro bono attorney through a nonprofit Ryan quietly funded. Luke was charged with assault and disturbing the peace. Though the legal process took time, it offered Emily a measure of hope that she could finally move on from his threats. Emily's father, steadily recovering, moved into a better rehabilitation program once Ryan connected her with a local philanthropic group. True to her word, Emily insisted on repaying Ryan for her father's medical expenses, at least what she could manage through a monthly plan. He accepted, not because he needed the money, but because he understood it helped preserve her sense of independence. As the dust settled, Emily found herself at another crossroads. She stood in front of the Blue Orchid on a crisp morning, staring at a new help wanted sign on the door. Felton, with the infusion of capital from Ryan, was planning to expand the restaurant and needed a new manager. He had quietly offered Emily the position. It paid more and came with benefits, and it recognized her leadership potential. But it would also mean committing more time to the restaurant, time she could possibly use to revisit her dream of going back to school. When she shared her dilemma with Ryan, he listened carefully. If I accept the manager job, it means putting off law school again, she explained. But it'll give me financial stability, and maybe I can save up for school in the future. Alternatively, if I turn it down, I could try to apply to law schools again, assuming I can get new scholarships or a loan. She exhaled, looking at him with pleading eyes. I'm torn. Ryan gazed at her, admiring the determination that was rekindling in her expression. I know you'll make the right choice, he said gently. What does your heart tell you? She paused, hugging herself as a breeze ruffled her hair. My heart wants to chase my dreams, but I'm so scared of failing again. He reached out, tipping her chin up so she looked him in the eyes. Failure is part of the journey. You've already proven how strong you are, and you won't be doing this alone." She let out a shaky laugh, tears shining in her eyes. "You're so good to me, but is it too idealistic for me to jump back into law school not knowing how I'll pay for it?" "Sometimes a leap of faith is exactly what's needed," he murmured. "But I support you no matter what you decide." Emily smiled softly, leaning in to kiss his cheek. "Thank you in the end." She accepted Mr. Felton's manager position on the condition that she could work part-time once she re-enrolled in school the following year. It was a compromise that would let her save some money, reduce her debts, and gradually transition back to her studies. Mr. Felton agreed, seeing her potential as both a capable manager and an aspiring lawyer who might one day advocate for small businesses like his under Emily's guidance as the new manager. The Blue Orchid thrived. She introduced new menu ideas, helped organize charity events in partnership with Ryan's philanthropic initiatives, and created a supportive environment for the staff, many of whom had their own struggles. Her father completed his rehabilitation program and moved into a small but cozy apartment near hers. Luke, for his part, stayed away after the restraining order. Though he occasionally tried to contact her, she blocked all attempts and reported any violations, determined to protect her new life. Ryan and Emily's relationship deepened over the months. Their shared past and the trials they'd faced together forged a bond that transcended superficial romance. Though they experienced arguments mostly around Emily's insistence on paying Ryan back for the hospital bills and the tension of balancing her work-life commitments, they worked through them with open communication one evening, months after the gala. Ryan guided Emily through the newly renovated portion of the Blue Orchid, which included a cozy lounge area for live music. Soft lights glowed, casting warm shadows on the walls. Emily marveled at the transformation. "This place has grown so much," she said, a mix of pride and gratitude in her voice. "All thanks to our brilliant manager," Ryan teased, slipping an arm around her waist. She rolled her eyes but smiled. "It's also thanks to a certain investor." They paused by a small stage where a jazz trio rehearsed for the evening. The lead musician smiled at them in greeting as the gentle melody filled the air. Ryan turned to Emily, taking her hands in his. "You know," he said quietly, "we've come a long way from those college days complaining about cafeteria food and dreaming about changing the world." She laughed softly. "Yeah, we had no idea what life had in store for us." Ryan's expression turned serious. "But I wouldn't trade any of it if it meant not finding you again." Her eyes shone, her lips parting in a smile. He brushed a stray strand of hair behind her ear, then in a gesture that felt both monumental and inevitable, he lowered himself onto one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Emily's hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide. The band stopped rehearsing, noticing the scene unfolding one by one. The staff around them turned their attention to the couple. "Emily Rogers," Ryan said softly, voice trembling with sincerity. "We've been through challenges that tested our spirits. We found each other again when life was at its toughest. You showed me that love isn't just about swooping in and saving someone. It's about walking side by side, supporting each other's strengths and weaknesses." He opened the box, revealing a simple yet elegant diamond ring. "I love you. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Emily's face, but her smile radiated joy and certainty. She nodded, her voice catching. "Yes, yes, Ryan, I will." Cheers and applause erupted around them as Ryan slid the ring onto her finger. He rose to his feet and they shared a trembling, emotional kiss. The band, smiling ear to ear, resumed playing a tender tune as if to soundtrack the moment of their destiny. They stood there in each other's arms, aware that life would continue to throw curveballs, death's obligations, career shifts, and personal growth. But they had each other now, truly and fully, and that was enough to face whatever came next. And so the story of Ryan Maxwell and Emily Rogers comes full circle. Two former college friends who found each other in the most unexpected way. Their journey was one of second chances, heartfelt confessions, and the unbreakable power of genuine support through it all. Financial hardships, medical crisis, and a dangerous ex, Ryan and Emily learned that real love isn't about rescue, but about standing side by side, lifting each other up when life weighs you down. Now standing on the brink of a new chapter together, they've discovered a love that's stronger than pride, richer than wealth, and fueled by hope for the future. enjoyed this heartfelt tale. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life and reminds us that love in all its forms is worth believing in. Until next time, stay tuned for more twists, turns, and timeless romances.